Yes, the Honourable Member for Christchurch, East Central.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I rise to lend my voice in support of the Appropriations Bill, familiarly referred to in this House as the estimates. Mr. Speaker, over the last day and a half, you would have heard many pronouncements on the quality of our economy, the quality of our society, the quality of our lives in this country. Some of that can stem from almost the level of pessimism that has been engendered in this economy and society as a result of the voices of so many. And there's so many because at the heart of what seems to be every action is the notion of politics. Politics which sometimes stretches one's imagination as they're concerned with quest for power, replacement of government, opposition as they right to be, seeking power. But what has happened is essentially a severe muddying of the water by propagandistic views, the spreading of fake news, the penetration into the minds of citizens that everything is wrong in this country. I'm not going to stand here and argue that there are not some things that can be better. In every society, in every country, in every community across the face of this earth, there are things that need change, there are things that need transformation, there are things that need adjustments. And we too have had our share of those challenges. We are told, when we read literature, even in the Bible, that man's lives go through a cycle, the cycle of birth and the cycle of death, the period of plenty, the period of scarcity, that there are steps and halts to everything in our lives. This has been 10 years that the Democratic Labour Party has been in government. And it has been 10 years of struggle to improve the circumstances and conditions of the citizens of Barbados. Now there is, and I don't understand the connection, because a party that has been involved in the major transformation of Barbados, a party that has not lost its vision, a party whose ideology and philosophy is still deeply embedded in the DNA of those who are leaders of the party, members and supporters of the party, that something catastrophic could have taken place to stop the party from continuing and adjusting, because there must always be adjustments relative to the progress of any situation, that we can be accused of betraying the citizens. I recognize that political parties who oppose can take positions in order to make themselves look good. But what has happened is that the political party, the major opposition party in this country, has for the first time in the history of political involvement in Barbados, going back, over 90 years or so, took a posture which simply said that the Democratic Labour Party is not relevant to this period, that they should not be allowed to serve, that whatever they do should be disrupted. We have never had so many marches in the history of Barbados as we have had, Mr. Speaker, in the last 8 or 9 years. From red dresses, red coats, to white dresses, white coats, to purple dresses, purple coats, to rubbing shoulders, to stirring up a frenzy in the nation as a means of undermining the effectiveness of the government. Even before the coming into office of the current Prime Minister, the disruption process was put in place. There were citizens, Mr. Speaker, in Barbados, particularly those involved in business, in commerce, who were told, don't invest in Barbados. And this is known. This is known. In fact, one could conclude that the members on that side who don't know of the several meetings held along the west coast of Barbados, particularly at the time in the last 3 to 4 years when one saw a resurgence of the tourism sector, when they were told don't invest. And the comment simply was, you mean now that things are looking better, you're telling us not to invest? No, there isn't a homogeneous grouping in Barbados, you know, in the business sector. So there are persons who will always provide you with the relevant information. And they're not like a magician pulling these things out the hat. We are all citizens of this great country, and I'm going to emphasize the word great country. And it still remains a great country, but there are cracks in the armor of our citizens. Our citizens used to be proud, focused, and determined people. But what is happening is that you can't even read some of your newspapers today without seeing the blatant prejudice and propaganda being part and parcel of what is in the newspaper, or you listen on call-in programs, or you listen or hear to something on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or any one of those. Today we have let loose on the nation persons who spread the Royce type of propaganda imaginable, who desecrate the names of citizens of this country. And people step back and say, thank God it is not me. But we know that in the process of time, when citizens stand by and allow this kind of thing to happen, that someday it will reach them. Because someday he or she who you embrace will eventually turn on you. Because you're not going to be able to feed their gluttony, their desire to want more and more and more. And eventually this too will turn on you. So there is a crisis of confidence in the nation, a crisis of confidence in ourselves. And first thing we have to do, outside of what the Honorable Member for St. Peter has outlined, outside of what is contained in the document as agreed to by the social partnership, outside of what the Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs has stated, outside of ideas put forward by the Honorable Member for St. Philip West, outside of other views and thoughts. And I said they're all contained because we have to have a pursuit to reassert the dominance of this nation in the affairs of the world. I'm not going to join the negative chorus, and I have never joined that negative chorus, because this country is important to me and those who will come after myself. And therefore, I urge, as we venture forth into the next few months, that in fact that we can have conversation with the people as we mount our nightly platforms that are not divisive, as though theater is what we are doing or what we are practicing, but education, information based on policies and programs would inform whatever we do. And if either side or all of those, got about 7 or 8 political parties, and I wouldn't be so bold as to suggest that any of the other parties cannot win the next election, I don't know. That is left to citizens in a democracy. And Barbados has been a democracy for a long time. Some people don't observe all the tenets of democracy, but it has been democracy, a democratic nation for a long time. The Honourable Member for St. Peter spoke about some of the social ills affecting Barbados. And he took his departure by looking at some issues affecting children in our schools. Only yesterday, Mr. Speaker, I visited one of the schools that had an incident recently, and I spoke to the students and to the staff. And I had to say to the students that they have not done anything wrong. They were not involved in stabbing anybody. Because this nation brings a harsh punishment on the innocent as well, by a global involvement of good, productive, decent young people, and pit them against those who are problematic. That can't be the right thing. So I had to tell them that they have done nothing wrong. They must remain focused and committed to achievement, to build themselves, their families, the community, and their country, and the world by extension. And I also had to inform teachers that they might now feel under severe stress because the scrutiny of the nation is on them. And the nation has been unfair to teachers for a very long time, over time. Not only now. Everything you want happen, put it in the schools. Put it in the schools. Nobody says put it into family-type organizations within communities, encourage PTAs and Parados and all other agencies to conjoin and help work to save the nation. Give it to teachers. Everybody wants to come and do something in the schools. And the mandate of both cognitive or academic, cultural, emotional learning, all of that must be forgotten in the face of somebody bringing something and placing it in the schools. We've had, not for the first time, and I want politicians to stop playing politics on each and every occasion that the fabric of society is being stretched. Yes, Mr. Speaker, and I was extremely disappointed, and even more disappointed this morning when the Honourable Member, a family that I've known, sir, for nearly 40 years, because he was ribbed, and we do occasionally rib each other across the floor, but a family that I've known for nearly 40 years, could have said that that is why the school's children are sore, because the Minister of Education gave me a little rib. And then the Nation newspaper, the colossal rag sheet of Barbados, would have it that the minister, the honorable member for St. Joseph, but that was really a non-point being made by the honorable member. Horrible point, because the way I live my life is as an example to many of them. I've worked with them for years. There was a time that even the brother of the member for St. Joseph was one of my closest friends. Closest friend. We were in youth council together. It's supposed to redeem you, not redeem anybody else. But that's what you get in the hunger, in the hyena-like hunger for power. You will seek to destroy and denigrate each other. That has to stop. That cannot find space, or should not find space, in the politics of Barbados. There is a problem among some of our young people. There is an anger in their bosoms among some of our young people. There are problems among some of our young people, and we need to get to the root cause, or the root cause of those problems, so that the infection cannot spread further and that it can be cured by the right level of inoculation, of immunization to stop that. When one examines some of the information that would reach us, as I said, I express sensitivity to some of these things because the Royal Barbados Police Force must be allowed to do its job. Recently, I was speaking to a principal when I saw a fight being shown on media, social media, and I called the principal and said, what was the reason for that fight? And the principal said, ha ha. So I asked the question, are you laughing at me? She said, no, that fight originated because ha ha is now supposed to be an insult once placed on social media, in this case, Facebook. I was appalled because I did not understand what some people consider to be insults relative to the use of social media, and that they planned where they were going to meet and fight in relation to it. That is an occurrence that is happening. By and large, you had to bring in all types of services, juvenile liaison scheme, probation department, counseling services. You had to bring all of those to bear on otherwise good young people. That is why I'm not going to join any bandwagon and throw all of our young people out into the sea or into the careenage. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to continue to work to ensure that they have a chance to self-actualize, that they have a chance to build their self-esteem. We know that the school system has not yet been able to cater to all, even though we've made tremendous strides in developing our competencies area, our skills-based area, our sports and education. All of those things have taken on new meaning in the last 10 years. And we've been working to ensure that this happens and that more and more young people can feel engaged and involved in the system. But there's no perfect system that gives you the kinds of returns where everybody is certified or certificated the same way. Because we are all different and we all respond to different stimuli, or something the same stimuli, differently. And we have to ensure that that is the case. There's a call, Mr. Speaker, and we have this. I remember very well, Mr. Speaker, when a young lady was murdered in a bathroom of one of our schools. I didn't get up. I don't remember anybody in the Democratic Party getting up and saying there's a lack of leadership, that a young lady was murdered in a bathroom of our country. But that's what I'm hearing from someone on the other side. Sympathy and understanding of the reason caused for that death. What were the forces that were guiding that level of behavior to happen? I have seen young people at one outstanding school captured some years ago on Facebook, where a hockey stick was used in the most vicious manner. Don't let's pretend, because we have to understand what is the motivation that would drive an individual to such a degree of anger in which a level of death or violence ensues. And therefore passing blame and saying it's the minister's fault that young people are violent is giving to me a burden that I'm not able to carry alone. I would invite the member, who I consider to be an excellent teacher from Sharon, to join me from St. Thomas and help carrying the burden, because I know you helped carry burdens before and you still do now. But I'm not going to rib her. I'm going to invite her to be a participant in the rescue effort. That is what I do. I beg of you to be part of the rescue effort rather than join those who are so politically blind that they would want to cast aspersions on the lives and the actions of others. I have never been known, Mr. Speaker, to join young people or anybody with negative behaviors in any form or fashion. I have never fought, Mr. Speaker, in my life. That does not mean I cannot, but I have never fought the cleanest record that you can find, because I'm a pacifist by nature. By nature, I might use my voice strongly sometimes when I have the capacity. But what has happened is that there are persons who I know what the plan is. I know what the corruption is. I know what the corruption is. Take him down, take him out, and all the others will fall. I'm well aware of that. I'm well aware of that. So when the leader of the Barist Labour Party, leader of the opposition, in a serious issue, the first thing you can point about is leadership in the Ministry of Education. But the first leader in there is the minister, and then there's leadership harder right through. And therefore, we have to be sensible in this exercise. Let's understand this. And I responded to a Facebook user only today. Why did you and the chief education officer don't set up, make all these things, metal detectors at our schools? As though the student population of Barbados is ignorant. One of the first skirmishes 3 weeks ago didn't happen in a school door. It happened on the school bus. So we're going to put metal detectors on school buses. When we're tired of that, we're going to put them on school doors. When we're tired of that, we're going to put them up in our villages and in our streets. So everybody that passes through one will be scanned. We can go to ridiculous extremes in these things. In these things. We have to try to get to the hearts. To the hearts. That's the first place we got to get. To the hearts of some of our young people, or all of our young people. Let them understand the kinds of values that they must inculcate. We have a situation where the adults who should know better, because they have operated with a good education, but they too wear their pants, Mr. Speaker, below their bottoms or their buttocks. They dress in the most awful way. The standards are poor. And then we say to young people, look here, smoke this, smoke that, drink as much poison as you can, because somehow creativity is the cause. Mix this with this and this with that. And they don't understand what are the active ingredients in that which they're mixing up. And they drink it, and it affects their minds and their bodies and their brains. There are young people from our schools who go to the Edgar Nichols Center established under the previous government. And sometimes when you check them for the active ingredients of one of the most widely used substances in Barbados, you have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 800 times the amount of that active ingredient. I call it like I don't remember what's its name. That is what we have in some of our young people, whose brain, whose bodies can't handle the substance. And invariably, when you check any noise, any fight, any instance, and they have to be so referred. Because the first thing that happens, once they are referred to the identical center, is a test. That's standard. You get about nowadays in 24 hours. That's how simple it is to check. And it is shocking amongst some of those young people. But on the other side, there are young people in this country who have held the banner high for themselves, their families, and this nation. Their pride and joy of this nation. They're well self-actualized because the families, regardless of how the families are constructed, have tried to hold them together. When they have difficulties, they come to you, they speak to you, they speak to the schools. There's some who might be poor, but they do not mind wearing a uniform that is well kept, because the children who return their uniforms to the schools, and they're laundered, and nobody knows that you have received 2 shirts and 3 pants, or 2 uniforms, or whatever, because there's a decency and a dignity by the leadership in our school system and by teachers. This is what happens. Not all of us have been able to, at this stage, pull ourselves up by our shoestrings, and have reached a level where we can just walk and buy 5 and 6 and 7 uniforms. Even doing that now by politicians is something wrong, because people are saying you're buying votes where you help a constituent. That is what is happening and being orchestrated by some supporters of the Barbados Labour Party. Don't say I'm wrong, because I am a Facebook individual. Any spare time I have, I am there. Any social media, I am there. So don't even question me on it. I don't want to hear a comment. I am there. I know who some of the perpetrators are. I know most of them. Know most of them. Even those who try to use pseudonyms. I know who they are. You track them down. I won't waste the training that the Barbados Labour Party gave to me in the, what time it was? In the 90s. Would not waste it. I don't do, I do not do what supporters of the Barbados Labour Party do in the things like Bajan puppets, the characterization of their colleagues, you know, in that kind of manner and in that level of behavior, but that's for another place. Not from you. The Honourable Member for St. Peter spoke to the development of national youth service. This issue, Mr. Speaker, was being discussed, to the best of my knowledge, maybe before, but my involvement started to take place in the mid-70s. I remember the work of Mr. Strawn. That was his first name again. Glenroy Strawn, his wife, Father Harcourt Blackett, the work of the Community Development Division that was just below there in the West Wing, under Gordon Walters. All of that work, I participated in drafting many versions of a national youth service for Barbados. But there was always one stumbling block in bringing that to fruition, and that is, if it is a national youth service, all must and should participate. And nobody should use money, power, position to beg out of national youth service. And then one had a racial overtone that it should only be among African children in Barbados, African young people. So there were difficulties. They can't come from certain schools. I still believe that we might be able to have a version in which young people must be able to do community service. And community service doesn't mean you have to go and sweep the street. It means that you can be involved in the various groups of your school. You can be involved in the various clubs and teams in our community. It means that you will be able to pursue the kinds of programs of entrepreneurship, values clarification, discipline, question of patriotism must be there without becoming only self-lovers. That is important. The disaster management skills, Lord forbid that a disaster of immense proportion hits this country. What will we do? Because we have not prepared our citizens, our youth for that disaster. In instances like this, the importance of organizing our youth, organizing our people become important. And from that angle, I would give such a situation my support. We cannot be happy for so many of our young people having knife and gun and scissors and screwdriver going out there. I was thinking through this thing over the last 2 days, Mr. Speaker, and without going into any detail, I said to myself, you know, let's put up a metal detector that detects metal. Plastic can be shaved down. I won't go any further, but I'm sure there are so many other things that can be used to maim as weapons that metal detector can detect. If you have a plastic detector or a grass detector, I leave that to the honourable member for Christchurch South. He is quite innovative as a good engineer.
Remember, your time is expired. You need to wind up.
Yeah, is that as a nation, we have to adopt a project. And that project is to save all of our young people, but particularly those of our young people who are specifically at risk. We have to give them an opportunity to reach a level of self-actualization. We have to give them the opportunity where they can feel as citizens of Barbados. We have to work now more forcefully, regardless of the difficulties of our current circumstances, to change those persons, transform their lives for the better. And as adults, as leaders, as political leaders, as persons who want to lead the state, there must be a change in the general thought and the general behavior of many persons who are or who aspire to be political leaders. They see the level of behavior, Mr. Speaker, that can sometimes be exhibited on political platforms. I am told that a member from the opposition was chastised. I have my doubts. But was chastised for the language used at a political meeting 2 weeks removed. I don't know who is Bulani. I don't call people Bulani or anything such person. But I was told, and if that person was in fact chastised, that means that the other side had to find something wrong with his behavior. We found something wrong with his behavior over time. So that's the level of behavior that one gets. Well, normalcy, the water always settles down.
Yes, I remember.
Anyhow, Mr. Speaker, I will have an opportunity here or somewhere else to explicate on the journey we have made. I'm thankful to the honourable member for St. John, who spoke to the initiative of building out medical education. Beyond that is medical tourism. This is what we're talking about. And she gave some figures which were reasonably accurate. We didn't push the window too wide. We tried to be conservative in relation to those figures, and when I heard them, I said, whoever developed them was in fact thinking.
I remember, thank you.
So I look forward, sir, to our journey into the future, and I look forward, sir, to your journey as well, and all the journeys of all of our members into the future for this great country, and have great men and women like us committed to the development of Barbados, and know that we've had some difficult times, and we can, at this time and at this juncture, make a change. I thank you.